I want to share with each other what your projects are for the Catalyst conference, and then for you guys to give feedback to each other as well. And then that's it. I'm just here as a spectator. Okay, does somebody want to start? Go.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I guess. Basically, what my idea is I'm gonna try to make a program to like incentivize kids to carpool at my school, because it's a big problem with like transportation at my school. Everyone drives themselves. There's like no carpooling, and not a lot of kids take the bus or walk or anything. Should I just like explain everything then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the reason why I also want to do this is because my school, there's a lot, like, we're all privileged, we go to a really nice school, and I just want to like maybe change people's perspectives, because a lot of kids don't really care about the environment at my school, and they don't really try to be sustainable, and maybe if I can like try to like incentivize kids to like do it even just like a little, maybe it'll like transfer into their everyday lives a little bit more. And let's see, my I would like how I incentivize people so I can offer it to like my principal and prove me doing all this. And basically I'd like change student parking so that people that carpool would like be in a certain spot, so we could like monitor that through like, I don't know, people would, it's still hypothetical how I actually am doing it yet, but like people would have to like sign into them, and then we could record that, and then give them things like rest down days, or like money to spend in the school store or something like that. And then also gives kids that can't, because only upperclassmen, seniors, and juniors can park, can also give kids that are younger than that parking privileges. And then, okay, when I look, this has never been done at my school, but I have a lot of teachers and students that would help me revise this and support me when I bring this to my school and my principal. And I would also, I think, if I had to ask people, I'd also ask teachers that are involved. I'm in the student leadership program, where it's kids focus on how to improve sustainability in the school, and I would ask those teachers how I can improve it, and they'd probably help with the implementation of it. And I'd also ask, at my school we used to have a head of sustainability for 2 years, and then they removed the position, but he still lets us ask him questions and stuff with my group, so I'd probably ask him if there's any way that he has any suggestions. And I'd also ask the groundskeepers and the security about the parking and how all the parking is divided up, so I could see if my principal would allow me to alter that a little for student parking privileges for carpooling, because it also if more people carpooled, there'd be more space for people to park, because right now no one that's a sophomore or freshman can park at school. And let's see, I don't know what else I'm supposed to talk about.
No, that's good. And then maybe Taka and Grace have some ideas for you.
I think that's a really good
I think the incentives sound really cool that you're willing to give people. I think the hardest thing will just be knowing when you can do this because of coronavirus and everything. But yeah, it seems like a really doable project.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really good idea, and like it's like a rather simple change, but I think, like you said, with that change, the students at your school will become more aware about sustainability and their effects on the climate. And it's like not. I mean, over here in Japan, none of the kids drive because the driving age is a lot older. But like, from what I hear, that's like a big part. Driving is a big part of the American culture, right? But like, I feel like carpooling, that's not that hard of a change to make. So kids will be more open to that idea. So I think it's really realistic.
Also, at our school, we have community engagement requirements. So, like for volunteer hours, and they made it so that if you take public transportation or carpool a certain amount of days, you get some credit for community engagement. So, I don't know if you have something like that at your school, but that could also be a good incentive because you have to get a certain number of hours before graduating.
Yeah, we have a huge volunteering program and like a bunch of like resources for that, but it's not required for some reason. So if it ever does, that would be helpful.
I've seen in other schools that senior parking spaces can be personalized. And by that, I mean that students were given permission to paint their own parking space and to personalize it for them. But maybe it would be like it's a change in the mind. It's a mind shift change that has to happen. That it's not because you're an upperclassman that you should be benefiting from those parking spaces, but it's because you are green and care about climate change in the world that you get the perk of being in those parking spaces. And maybe if people know there's, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 people in the same car and they're carpooling, they could also, another thing they could do is personalize their parking space so they always know what space they're going to have. I don't know if that's something that people, again, it's a mind shift. Like we have to really change people's ideas of, I don't know, the old ladies talking. What is cool? Like what is it cool? Is it cool to be an upperclassman, or is it cool to actually care about the world and make a change, or try and make a change? But again, it has to be like a mind shift. So maybe that's something else that you can think about or propose as well.
Okay, thank you.
And then last thing and this goes for all of your projects, guys. Like one of the things you can do, Caroline, is if at the end of your WordPress, how can this become something that even if we do go back in August or September to school, like people can start, I don't know, is there's a sign up that people can say, well, I could be carpooling with these people, so we could be one car, or I don't know, like just something so that your project doesn't stop next Sunday. It's something that there's continuation for it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next if that's okay.
All right.
So the focus of my project is more of like an awareness thingy. So I'm trying to build more awareness in my community. And the question I'm trying to answer is, what will life on Earth be like in the foreseeable future in regards to climate change? So my idea is that, well, like the reason why I'm focusing on this is because I feel like if people in my community are more aware of what a realistic scenario for our future is like, then they'll be, and if it's bad, then they'll be more incentivized to actually make a change, because they'll be like, oh shoot, I don't want to live in those kind of conditions. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a science fiction short story which related to that topic, and so I'll include all sorts of like scientific information from like actual research about that. And then with that, like I'm gonna try and get it into the school. Like my school has this sort of it has this like yearly magazine that features all of the student work, and like a lot of people read that. So I'm gonna try and get it into there, so that like that'll be a really good way to raise awareness. And let's see. And yeah, that's about it for now.
That sounds interesting. I don't know if I have much feedback, but that sounds really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, like what Grace said, it sounds like a really cool idea. If it helps influence people, make them like aware, that'd be really a great way, an interesting, like creative way to do that.
Taki, I have a question. When you say you're gonna write a short story, do you mean like a comic book story, or like just no images, just written story?
Um, I'm kind of still deciding on which I think, but like I was hoping maybe you guys would have some ideas on which you think is better.
I think some cool visuals would be interesting to add. Maybe if you could do some like digital, I don't know, some sort of like digital visual where you could show like what the earth or what daily life will look like.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I also think words are powerful and you could just have really strong writing and show your research. So I don't know. It could go one way or the other.
I mean, people respond to different things. It's kind of just different everywhere. But if you know how people in your school respond to, like if they understand things more visually, or like they like take more meaning in like words and like writing, then like I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I was wondering if your publication, Take, I think that the idea of putting it in the magazine, the school magazine, I think that's awesome, because if you were to have a main character to your story, and are you a senior, Take?
I'm a sophomore.
Okay, so then this character could live on for a couple more years in that magazine, and his or her adventures could be something that keep happening, or they could be, like just again thinking about like what would happen to this story or this character in the story once the Calais conference is over. Like, could it be actually be something that my charger, guys? I have 5% back, 5% battery, but I don't know. Think about it. Okay, Grace, if you want to talk, do it, and then I get my charger.
Sure. So the question I wrote down that I want to answer is, how does buying locally sourced food items affect the environment, and in what ways can I work within our impact? And I just wanted to bring like awareness to this issue, and I'm just reading through the little Google Doc I made, but I'm hoping to do three main things through the project. Research regarding the effectiveness of shopping locally, because I know some. Wait, my document just glitched for a second. But I've learned the climate, preserving farmland, reducing food miles, preserving genetic diversity. So there's all these benefits for buying food that's locally sourced. And then the second, government and plan a community day where everyone joins a garden that's accessible to the public. And then the third thing I wanted to do was create a guide for people in my community who want to shop for food that is locally sourced on a budget, and give them a guide to different restaurants and grocery stores that make an effort to connect with local farmers. Yeah, so those are my three main goals.
I think I like that idea because like I feel like there's a lot of people out there who want to be more sustainable, want to eat locally grown, but they don't necessarily know how to, and that's like, or they don't know where to go to get that. So that's what's kind of holding them back. So I think with this idea, you'll bring out a lot of those people, and I think that would be really good for that.
Yeah, something I also forgot to say is I want to create some recipes with some foods that are currently in season for my area at least, so that people can look at that and have no excuse not to go make it, especially if the food is cheap.
I just have one question. You know how you said like you're gonna have a day where you plant, everyone comes together and plants like a garden.
Mhm.
Do you have like a idea for like the land that you would use, or like is that still?
I'm still trying to figure that out, and obviously this wouldn't happen for probably a couple of months until people can like come out of their houses. But near our town hall, there's kind of like this area that used to be a parking lot, and now it's just kind of like, I don't know, dirt sitting there. So I thought, and it's kind of like in the middle of our town, so I thought that'd be a good potential location, but I still have to reach out to people.
Yeah.
I have another question about the garden. I think overall it's a really great idea, but is it just like how, like, who takes care of it? Is it just like the community, like they all share responsibility, or is there specific people that have the responsibility to look after it?
I haven't thought that part out as much, but I was hoping that through creating a community garden, like that would inspire people to make gardens in their own houses so that people wouldn't be relying on like that public space for their produce, I guess. But I don't know. I thought of it as more of just like inspiration for everyone, but I would need to think about who would actually maintain it. Maybe just on a volunteer basis, whoever wants to. But
Yeah, because at my school we have a tiny community garden, and they have they have a high school club and a middle school elective that go through there like every other day, specifically in like the fall and the spring, and they like make sure everything's running smoothly. So if you could get like a group of volunteers, like you said, it would be like really effective.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Several years ago, I was in Atlanta, and while I was there, they were something like this conversation came up. In Atlanta, apparently, there are many abandoned buildings, office buildings that had a lot of parking space. You know, like those spiral parking spaces, and then on top of that are the offices. And for whatever reason, they have now been abandoned. And so they had a project where on every level of the parking, they were starting to build tiny houses for homeless people. And so they would have, I think it was like 4 people per level, tiny houses. And the other thing that they were doing in that space is because besides giving somebody a house in a space that isn't being used for anything else, they also started a garden. And so that way, those people who were homeless and probably most of them jobless as well, could grow some of their own food. And so maybe if this is something that you could reach out to your community, and if there is a group of, I don't know, somebody who helps out in a soup kitchen for homeless people, you know, like the soup kitchen could be also a place where they could plant some of those vegetables or many of those vegetables and fruits, and then use them for their own soup kitchen. And maybe the people who are homeless or jobless could have a purpose by being the ones taking care of the garden.
Yeah, there's a transitional like housing shelter near me that I volunteer for, and they have a lot of outside space, so maybe I could do something with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I know different volunteers from soup kitchens go there a lot to cook food, so that'd be a good idea.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys for sharing your ideas. Before I let you go, I'm wondering, have the three of you been able to get into your WordPress? You've been able to get in, you know how it looks? Do you want to do it together?
Yes.
I've logged into mine.
Yeah, I've been able to log.
I haven't yet, but I will tonight.
Okay, remember to go to module 5.5 and you will find the steps and your username and password, and then several videos of how to put videos, how to add text, how to edit it, and just make it look super nice. All right? Okay,
Thank
guys,
you.
so last thing. I know I said the deadline for that was the 18th, which in Mexican time is tomorrow. Maybe for Taka it's like in 2 hours, I don't know.
It's today, actually.
Oh, okay,
right now.
there we go. It's there. But if you guys need a little bit more time, you can have until the 20th. Okay, because on the 21st, I need to make sure that everything is polished and proofread and ready to be like just completely published, because on the 24th, we go live. And so we need a few days before that just to look at your pages and make sure everything's working, all the links are working, no typos, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so if you guys need a little bit more time, you may have it. And that's it. Let's get to work.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.